In the quiet spaces where life and death blur, some connections refuse to sever, no matter the cost. Emily and Sophia Thompson were born on a rainy afternoon in the small town of Milford, Ohio, back in 1995. From the moment they entered the world, they were inseparable, not by choice, but by biology. Conjoined at the hip, sharing a portion of their lower torso and legs, they were a medical marvel that the local newspapers splashed across their front pages. Miracle twins defy odds, one headline read. Their parents, Robert and Linda Thompson, were simple folks. Robert worked as a mechanic at the local garage, fixing cars with grease-stained hands, while Linda was a school teacher, grading papers late into the night. They loved their daughters fiercely, but raising conjoined twins in a town where everyone knew everyone's business was no easy task. The girls' early years were filled with doctors' visits, specialists poking and prodding, and endless discussions about quality of life. Emily, the older by 3 minutes, was the introspective one. She had soft brown hair that fell in waves to her shoulders, hazel eyes that seemed to absorb the world around her, and a quiet demeanor that made her seem wise beyond her years. She loved books, fairy tales at first, then mysteries and adventures. As she grew, Sophia, on the other hand, was the firecracker. Her hair was the same shade but always tied back in a ponytail, her eyes sparkled with mischief, and she had a laugh that could fill a room. She craved attention, chatting with anyone who would listen, dreaming of travel and excitement. Growing up, they shared everything: clothes adapted with extra seams, a custom wheelchair for mobility until they learned to walk in tandem, and a bedroom painted in soft blues and pinks. School was a challenge. The other kids stared, whispered, sometimes teased. Freak show, one boy called them in 3rd grade, earning a swift trip to the principal's office. But Emily and Sophia stuck together, literally and figuratively. They developed a rhythm. Emily would read aloud while Sophia acted out the scenes, or Sophia would drag them into games with neighborhood kids while Emily hung back, observing. As teenagers, the differences sharpened. They attended Milford High, where adaptations were made, a special desk, extra time for tests, counselors on speed dial. Emily excelled in English and history, burying herself in stories of far-off places. Sophia was into drama club and sports, well, as much as she could be, cheering from the sidelines or participating in adapted activities. But whispers of separation surgery began to creep in. Doctors had always said it was possible but risky. Sophia pushed for it. Imagine it, she'd say late at night, their heads on shared pillows. I could run, date boys without you tagging along, live my own life. Emily would nod, but inside, fear gnawed at her. What if something went wrong? What if she lost the only person who truly understood her? By age 18, they moved to Columbus for college, sharing a dorm room at Ohio State University. Emily studied literature, Sophia communications. College brought freedom and tension. Sophia dated a guy named Mark, a frat boy with a charming smile. But dates were awkward with Emily there. Arguments flared. "You're holding me back," Sophia snapped one night after a failed party. Emily cried silently. Deep down, she felt the same pull for independence, but guilt silenced her. Years ticked by. At 25, after graduating and landing entry-level jobs, Emily as a library assistant, Sophia in marketing, the surgery decision loomed. A top surgeon in New York, Dr. Harlan Reeves, reviewed their case. "High success rate," he said in his sterile office, charts spread out. "But risks, infection, blood loss, one or both not surviving." Sophia was adamant. "We have to try." Emily agreed, though her heart pounded. The surgery day arrived on a crisp autumn morning in 2020. The hospital smelled of antiseptic. Their parents hugged them, tears flowing. "We love you both," Linda whispered. In the operating room, under bright lights, Emily squeezed Sophia's hand. "See you on the other side," Sophia joked. Anesthesia took hold. Hours later, Emily woke in recovery, groggy, alone. Her body felt strange, lighter, complete. But where was Sophia? A nurse's face told her before words did. "Complications. Your sister. She didn't make it." A blood clot. they said. Sudden, irreversible. Grief hit like a tidal wave. Emily screamed, then sobbed for days. Funeral in Milford, a small affair. Sophia's casket, flowers in her favorite colors. Emily felt half empty, phantom pains where they once connected. "Why her?" she whispered to the grave. Months blurred. Emily quit her job, moved back with parents briefly, then to a quiet apartment in Cleveland. Therapy helped a little, talking about survivor's guilt. She met David at a coffee shop. He was 28, a high school history teacher with kind blue eyes and a gentle smile. He spilled his latte on her book. Apologies turned to conversation, then dates. David didn't pry about her past at first. When she told him, he held her. "You're strong," he said. They married a year later, in 2022, a simple ceremony. David knew about Sophia, saw the photos on the mantle. Life settled, David teaching, Emily working part-time at a bookstore. But shadows lingered. Emily would catch herself talking to Sophia in empty rooms, dreams where they were still together, and sometimes a chill, like eyes watching. One evening, as rain pattered against the window, Emily felt it strongly. She was folding laundry, whites, colors, socks matched meticulously. A whisper? No, just the wind. But the mirror in the hallway fogged, a handprint appearing briefly. She wiped it away, heart racing. "Imagination," she muttered. Days turned. Routine. Wake at 7, coffee with 2 sugars, Sophia's way. See David off, read, work, dinner, pasta or chicken, nothing fancy. But the unease grew. A drawer opening on its own, a photo frame tipping over. Emily dismissed it. Grief, the therapist, said, yet deep down she knew. Some bonds don't break easily. Emily and David's apartment in Cleveland was a modest 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a brick building. The walls were beige, the floors hardwood but scratched from years of previous tenants. The kitchen had a small table where they ate most meals, cereal in the mornings, sandwiches for lunch, or take-out pizza when they were too tired to cook. Emily liked the routine. It grounded her. Every morning she woke at 7:15, brewed coffee in a cheap machine, and added exactly 2 teaspoons of sugar to her mug, stirring it slowly, the spoon clinking against ceramic. It was Sophia's way of drinking coffee, and Emily couldn't break the habit. David would kiss her forehead, grab his briefcase, and head to Westview High School, where he taught history to bored teenagers. Emily's days were quiet. She worked part-time at Pages and Tomes, a cozy bookstore downtown. Shelving novels, ringing up customers, recommending thrillers to curious readers. It was simple work, but she liked the smell of paper and the hum of soft jazz in the background. When not working, she read on the couch, a blanket over her legs, or watched reruns of old sitcoms. Friends was her favorite. Sophia used to mimic Ross's pivot yell, making them both laugh until they couldn't breathe. Now the laugh track felt hollow. Life with David was steady, predictable. He'd come home by 4:30, grading papers, at the kitchen table while Emily cooked. Spaghetti with jarred sauce, chicken stir-fry, or meatloaf on Sundays. They'd talk about his students, the weather, Cleveland's gray winters were endless, or plans for the weekend, maybe a movie at the local theater or a walk by Lake Erie. David was patient, never pushing when Emily's mood dipped. She still saw her therapist, Dr. Karen Mills, once a month. "You're coping well," Dr. Mills said, adjusting her glasses. "Grief takes time. Keep journaling." Emily nodded, but the journal sat mostly empty. Writing felt like admitting Sophia was gone forever. The first strange thing happened on a Tuesday in March 2023. Emily was home alone, vacuuming the living room. The vacuum's hum drowned out the world. She was pushing it under the couch when it stopped abruptly, unplugged. The cord lay neatly coiled by the wall as if someone had yanked it and tidied it up. Emily frowned. She'd been alone all day. "David?" she called, though she knew he was at school. Silence. She plugged it back in, finished vacuuming, and tried to forget it. That night over dinner, roast chicken and mashed potatoes, she mentioned it to David. He chewed thoughtfully, then said, Old wiring, maybe. This place is ancient. Emily nodded, but her stomach twisted. She remembered the hospital, the cold operating room, Sophia's hand in hers. The guilt was always there, a dull ache. What if she'd said no to the surgery? Would Sophia still be here, laughing, planning their next adventure? A week later, another incident. Emily was sorting laundry in the bedroom, separating whites from colors, folding David's button-up shirts just so. She turned to grab a hanger, and when she looked back, a single sock was missing. Not just misplaced, gone. She searched under the bed, in the hamper, even in the washing machine. Nothing. Sophia used to steal her socks as a prank, hiding them in pillowcases or under couch cushions. "Stop it," Emily muttered aloud, then froze. Who was she talking to? The dreams started soon after. In them, Emily and Sophia were still conjoined, moving as one. They were in their childhood home, the blue and pink bedroom, giggling over a shared secret. But then Sophia's face changed, pale, eyes dark and hollow. "You let me die," she whispered. Emily woke gasping, her pajamas damp with sweat. David stirred beside her. "You okay?" he mumbled. "Just a dream," she said, but sleep didn't come again that night. The next day at the bookstore, Emily was distracted. She misfiled a stack of mysteries under romance and gave a customer the wrong change. Her co-worker, a chatty college student named Mia, noticed. "You look tired, Em. Everything good?" Emily forced a smile. "Just didn't sleep well." Mia nodded, then launched into a story about her cat knocking over a plant. Emily half listened, her eyes drifting to the store's mirror. For a split second, she saw Sophia's reflection, pale, standing behind her. She spun around. No one there. Mia kept talking, oblivious. Back home, Emily cooked dinner. Tacos, David's favorite. She chopped onions, the knife's rhythm soothing. But as she reached for the spices, a glass on the counter tipped over. It didn't break, just rolled to the edge and stopped. Emily stared. The counter was level. No breeze. She picked it up, hands trembling, and set it in the sink. When David got home, she didn't mention it. He'd say it was nothing, like the vacuum cord. But Emily felt it. A presence, like Sophia was still tethered to her, watching, waiting. Days passed, each one blending into the next. Wake, coffee, work, dinner, TV, bed. David suggested a weekend hike in Cuyahoga Valley National Park. "Fresh air might help," he said, squeezing her hand. Emily agreed, hoping it would clear her head. But the unease lingered, like a shadow. She couldn't shake. At night, lying in bed, she listened to the apartment's creaks, wondering if it was just the building settling, or something else. Emily and David's weekend hike in Cuyahoga Valley National Park was supposed to be a reset. They packed a backpack with water bottles, granola bars, and a small first aid kit just in case. The drive was an hour, the car radio playing. Soft rock. David hummed along to an old Eagles song, while Emily stared out the window at the passing trees, their leaves just starting to turn yellow. The air was crisp when they arrived, the trailhead marked by a wooden sign. They walked the Ledges Trail, a path winding through mossy rocks and tall pines. David pointed out a hawk circling above, its wings cutting through the gray sky. Emily smiled, but her thoughts drifted to Sophia. They used to dream of hiking together, imagining how they'd manage it, laughing about needing a custom backpack. For two. The hike was uneventful. 2 hours of crunching leaves, the occasional squirrel darting across the path. They stopped at a lookout, ate their granola bars, and took a selfie by a cliff. David's arm around her felt warm, safe. For a moment, Emily thought maybe things were getting better. No strange incidents, no dreams the night before. But as they drove home, a chill settled in her bones. She chalked it up to the cooling autumn air. Back in the apartment, life resumed its rhythm. Monday morning, Emily woke at 7:15, made coffee, 2 sugars, always, and waved David off to work. She had a shift at the bookstore later, so she tidied up, dusting the shelves, rearranging the photos on the mantel. One was of her and Sophia at 16, arms around each other at a county fair, cotton candy in hand. Emily touched the frame, her throat tightening. "Miss you," she whispered. That afternoon at Pages and Tomes, the bookstore was slow. Emily restocked the fiction section, her fingers lingering on a copy of Rebecca. Sophia loved Gothic tales. As she placed it on the shelf, a book fell from the top row, landing with a thud. It was The Turn of the Screw, a ghost story. Emily picked it up, her pulse quickening. She glanced around. No one nearby, not even Mia, who was at the register. She shelved it quickly and moved on, but her hands shook. That night, dinner was simple: grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup. David talked about a student's funny essay answer, something about the Civil War and aliens. Emily laughed, but it felt forced. After dishes, they watched a sitcom, the canned laughter grating on her nerves. In bed, David fell asleep quickly, his soft snores filling the room. Emily lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Around midnight, she heard it, a faint whisper, like breath against her ear. "Emily." Her name, spoken in Sophia's voice, soft, but clear. She bolted upright, heart pounding. The room was dark, David still asleep, nothing there. She didn't sleep again that night. The whispers continued over the next few days. Always at night, always her name, sometimes with a faint giggle, like Sophia's old playful tone. Emily started keeping the bedside lamp on, telling David it was because she was reading late. He didn't question it, but she caught his worried glances. At her next therapy session, Dr. Mills listened as Emily described the dreams, the whispers. "Auditory hallucinations can be part of grief," Dr. Mills said, scribbling notes. "Stress can amplify it. Have you tried meditation?" Emily nodded, though she hadn't. She left with a prescription for anti-anxiety pills, which she didn't fill. Pills wouldn't bring Sophia back or stop whatever was happening. One evening, while David was at a parent-teacher conference, Emily was alone, folding laundry in the living room. The TV played low, some cooking show about cupcakes. She was matching socks, always a chore since the missing sock incident, when the lights flickered. Once, twice, then off for a full second before coming back on. Her breath caught. The air felt heavy, like before a storm. She stood, clutching a sock, and checked the apartment. All windows closed, no drafts. The lights stayed steady after that, but she didn't feel alone. The next morning she found something odd. In the kitchen, the coffee canister was open, a small pile of grounds spilled on the counter. She hadn't made coffee yet. David was already gone, early for a staff meeting. Emily cleaned it up, her hands unsteady. Sophia used to sneak extra coffee when their parents weren't looking, giggling as she scooped it. "You're imagining things," Emily told herself, but her voice wavered. At work, she was jumpy. A customer asked for a book recommendation and she blanked, staring at them like they'd spoken another language. Mia noticed again. "You sure you're okay, Em? You look like you saw a ghost." Emily forced a laugh. "Just tired." But when she passed the mirror by the checkout, she avoided looking. She didn't want to see Sophia's face again. That night, the dream was worse. Emily and Sophia were in the operating room, conjoined, strapped to the table. Sophia turned, her eyes black voids. "You wanted this," she hissed. "You wanted me gone." Emily woke screaming, David shaking her gently. "Em, it's okay. Just a dream," he said, pulling her close. She clung to him, tears soaking his shirt. "It's not just a dream," she whispered. David didn't respond, but his grip tightened. The next day, Emily bought a small journal from the bookstore, hoping Dr. Mills was right about writing. She sat at the kitchen table, pen in hand, and wrote, "I hear her. I see her. Is it really her? Or am I losing it?" The pen slipped, leaving a long ink streak. She stared at it, her heart racing. The streak looked like a jagged scar, like the one on her hip from the surgery. Emily's days dragged on, each one blending into the next with a numbing sameness. She woke at 7:15, brewed her coffee with 2 sugars, and stirred it slowly, the spoon scraping the mug's edge. David left for work, his briefcase swinging. As he kissed her goodbye, the apartment was quiet, save for the hum of the fridge or the occasional car horn from the street below. Emily tried to keep busy, sweeping the floor, wiping down counters, organizing the spice rack alphabetically, but the routine couldn't shake the growing unease, like a storm cloud hovering just out of sight. At Pages and Tomes, Emily's shifts felt longer. The bookstore's cozy charm, wooden shelves, soft lighting, the faint scent of old pages, did little to calm her. She shelved books mechanically, her mind replaying the whispers, the flickering lights, the spilled coffee grounds. Customers noticed her distraction. "You okay, miss?" an older woman asked when Emily handed her the wrong book. "Fine, just tired," Emily replied, her smile thin. Mia, her co-worker, tried to cheer her up, chatting about a new sci-fi novel, or her weekend plans. Emily nodded along, but her eyes kept darting to the mirror by the register. She swore she saw movement once, a flicker of Sophia's ponytail, but when she looked, it was just her own reflection, pale and drawn. One evening, David suggested a break from routine. "Let's go out," he said, pulling on a jacket. They drove to a diner downtown, a retro place with red vinyl booths and a jukebox playing oldies. Emily ordered a burger and fries, picking at the food while David talked about a new history curriculum. The neon sign outside buzzed, casting a red glow through the window. For a moment, Emily felt normal, like the whispers and dreams were just stress, as Dr. Mills said. But then, in the diner's mirrored wall, she saw her, Sophia, sitting in the booth behind, her face pale, eyes locked on Emily. She gasped, dropping her fork. David turned. "What's wrong?" Emily looked again. The booth was empty. "Nothing," she mumbled, heart racing. She didn't touch her food after that. Back home, the incidents grew harder to ignore. One night, while washing dishes, plates caked with spaghetti sauce, the faucet turned off by itself. Emily stared as the water slowed to a drip, then stopped. She twisted the knob. It worked fine. "David?" she called, though she knew he was grading papers in the living room. No answer. She dried her hands, her pulse loud in her ears. Later, in bed, she heard the whisper again. "Emily." But this time it came from the closet. She didn't dare open it, pulling the blanket to her chin until morning. The dreams grew darker. In one, Emily stood in their childhood bedroom, Sophia beside her, their bodies still joined. Sophia's voice was cold. "You chose this. You wanted to be free." Emily tried to speak, but her mouth wouldn't move. Sophia's hand, cold as ice, gripped hers, pulling her toward a dark void. Emily woke, gasping, David shaking her. "You were screaming," he said, worry creasing his face. She didn't tell him the truth, just hugged him until her trembling stopped. Desperate for answers, Emily returned to Dr. Mills. The therapist's office smelled of lavender, a diffuser humming in the corner. Emily recounted the whispers, the faucet, the mirror. "I think it's Sophia," she said, voice breaking. Dr. Mills leaned forward, her pen pausing. "Grief can manifest in powerful ways. It's possible your guilt is projecting these experiences." Emily nodded, but the words felt hollow. Guilt didn't unplug vacuums or spill coffee. "Try grounding exercises," Dr. Mills suggested. "Focus on what's real. Touch, smell, sound." Emily left with a pamphlet on mindfulness, which she tossed in a drawer. The next day, something new happened. Emily was vacuuming the hallway. When the TV turned on, static hissing. She froze, the vacuum still running. On the screen, amidst the snow, a faint image formed. Two girls, conjoined, laughing at a fair. Their fair, years ago. The image flickered, then vanished. Emily yanked the vacuum's plug and turned off the TV, her hands shaking. She didn't tell David when he got home. He'd think she was crazy. That night, cooking dinner, chicken and rice, the rice sticking to the pot, she cut her finger slicing. Carrots, blood welled up, bright red, and for a moment she was back in the operating room, blood on the sheets, Sophia's hand going limp. She wrapped her finger in a bandage, ignoring the sting. David noticed her silence over dinner. "You seem off," he said, pushing his glasses up. "Just tired," she lied, avoiding his eyes. By week's end, the apartment felt different, smaller, heavier. Emily found a hairpin on the bathroom sink, one of Sophia's old ones, silver, with a tiny star. She hadn't seen it in years, hadn't brought it to Cleveland. She tucked it in a drawer, her chest tight. That night, the whisper was louder, almost a hiss. "You can't hide." Emily sat up, scanning the dark bedroom. David slept on. She grabbed her journal, writing frantically. "She's here. She's angry. What does she want?" The pen shook, ink smudging. She didn't sleep. David suggested a weekend getaway. "Maybe a change of scenery," he said, hopeful. Emily agreed, desperate for relief. They booked a cabin by Lake Erie, a quiet place to escape. But as they packed, jeans, sweaters, a deck of cards for evenings, Emily felt watched. In the mirror, as she brushed her hair, Sophia's face appeared again, just for a second, her eyes accusing. Emily dropped the brush, her reflection alone once more. The drive to the Lake Erie cabin was long and quiet, the road winding through flat fields and sparse trees. Emily sat in the passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap, watching the gray sky blur past. David drove, humming softly to a classic rock station, the radio crackling now and then. They'd packed light, jeans, sweaters, a deck of cards, a few snacks. The cabin, a small wooden structure with a sloped roof, sat near the lake's edge, surrounded by tall grass and a rickety dock. When they arrived, the air smelled of water and pine. David carried their bags inside, his smile hopeful. "This'll be good for us," he said, setting a duffel on the creaky floor. Emily nodded, but her chest felt tight, like the air was too thick to breathe. The cabin was simple, one bedroom with a lumpy mattress, a living area with a faded couch, and a kitchenette with a stove that looked older than Emily. They unpacked, ate sandwiches, ham and cheese, the bread slightly stale, and played cards by lamplight. David taught her gin rummy, laughing when she forgot the rules. For a moment, Emily relaxed, the lake's gentle lapping outside, soothing her nerves. No whispers, no shadows. Maybe the change of scenery was helping. But that night, the calm broke. Emily woke at 2 a.m., the cabin dark except for moonlight filtering through thin curtains. The bed was empty. David wasn't there. She called his name, her voice small in the silence. No answer. Heart pounding, she got up, bare feet cold on the wooden floor. She found him in the living room, staring out the window at the lake. "David?" she whispered. He turned, startled. "Couldn't sleep," he said, but his eyes were wide, like he'd seen something. Emily didn't ask. She didn't want to know. The next morning, while making coffee, instant this time, stirred with a plastic spoon, she noticed a mark on the kitchen table. A faint scratch, like someone had dragged a nail across it, forming the letter S. Her hands shook as she traced it. Sophia's initial. She covered it with a placemat, telling herself it was a coincidence. David didn't notice, busy frying eggs on the ancient stove. They ate in silence, the eggs overcooked, the toast burnt. The day passed slowly, a walk by the lake, skipping stones, reading on the dock. But Emily felt watched, the hairs on her, neck prickling. That night, the dream was vivid. Emily and Sophia were conjoined again, standing in the cabin's living room. Sophia's face was gaunt, her eyes black pools. "You killed me," she said, her voice sharp, cutting. Emily tried to run, but their shared body wouldn't move. Sophia's cold hand gripped hers, pulling her toward the lake outside. Water rose around them, cold and black, swallowing her. Emily woke, gasping, the bed shaking slightly. David was awake too, his face pale. "Did you feel that?" he whispered. She nodded, unable to speak. The bed frame was still, but the air felt charged, like static before a storm. Back in Cleveland, the incidents grew bolder. One evening, Emily was ironing David's shirts, the iron hissing steam. The lights flickered. Then the iron shut off, its cord unplugged. She froze, staring at the plug on the floor, neatly coiled like the vacuum cord months ago. "Sophia, stop," she whispered, her voice trembling. The room felt colder, the air heavy. She plugged the iron back in, finished the shirt, and didn't tell David. At the bookstore, things worsened. Emily was stacking magazines when a stack fell, scattering across the floor. As she knelt to pick them up, she saw it. A photo of her and Sophia, clipped from an old newspaper article about their surgery, tucked between the pages. Her breath caught. She hadn't seen that article in years. She shoved it into her bag, not showing Mia, who was busy with a customer. Later at home, she burned it in the sink, watching the edges curl and blacken. The smoke alarm didn't go off, which was odd. David started noticing things too. One night, while grading papers, he found a note slipped into his stack. "She's mine." The handwriting was shaky, like Sophia's when she was tired. He showed Emily, his face pale. "Did you write this?" he asked. She shook her head, tears welling. "It's her," she said. David didn't argue, but his jaw tightened. He suggested seeing a priest or a medium. Emily refused. "It's my fault," she said, voice breaking. "I wanted the surgery too. I wanted to be free." David held her, but his eyes were scared. The worst came a week later. Emily was alone, cooking dinner. Pork chops, mashed potatoes, green beans. The knife slipped as she chopped beans, slicing her palm. Blood dripped onto the counter, pooling like it had in the operating room. As she grabbed a towel, the lights went out completely. A whisper filled the dark. "You can't run." Emily screamed, dropping the knife. The lights snapped back on, and there, on the counter, was Sophia's hairpin, the silver star glinting. Emily backed away, heart hammering, and locked herself in the bathroom until David came home. They decided to move. A new apartment, a fresh start. They packed slowly, books, clothes, dishes wrapped in newspaper. Emily found Sophia's old scarf in a box, one she didn't remember packing. She buried it deep in the trash, her hands shaking. As they loaded boxes into the car, Emily felt eyes on her. In the rearview mirror, she saw Sophia's face, just for a second, smiling coldly. She didn't tell David. He was already scared enough. The new apartment was in a quieter part of Cleveland, a low-rise building with white walls and a small garden out front. Emily and David moved in on a chilly November morning, their breath visible in the air as they carried boxes up the stairs. The place smelled of fresh paint, the floors new but creaky. They unpacked slowly. Books on shelves, dishes in cabinets, clothes hung neatly. Emily planted red geraniums in the garden, Sophia's favorite flower, hoping it might calm whatever. Followed her. David found a new routine, teaching at a nearby school, while Emily took a break from the bookstore, claiming she needed time to settle in. Really, she was scared to face the mirrors there. Mornings were the same. 7:15, coffee with 2 sugars, the spoon clinking in the mug. David kissed her goodbye, his smile strained but kind. Emily filled her days with chores, sweeping, laundry, scrubbing the sink until it gleamed. She avoided mirrors, covering the bathroom one with a towel. The journal lay untouched. Writing felt like inviting Sophia in. They ate simple dinners, meatloaf, pasta, or takeout Chinese, the cartons piling up in the recycling. They watched TV, old comedies mostly, but Emily barely laughed. David noticed her silence but didn't push. "We're okay," he'd say, squeezing her hand. She nodded, wanting to believe it. For a week, things were calm. No whispers, no flickering lights. Emily thought maybe the move had worked, that Sophia's presence was tied to the old apartment. But on the 8th night, it returned. Emily woke. To a cold breeze, the bedroom window opened despite being locked before bed. She shut it, heart racing, and checked the apartment. David slept soundly. In the living room, a photo frame had fallen, her and Sophia at their high school graduation. Smiling in matching caps, she set it upright, her hands trembling. The next day, while dusting, Emily found a mark on the wall, a faint, jagged line, like the scar from their surgery. She painted over it, the brush shaking in her hand. That night, the dream came again. Emily and Sophia stood in the new apartment, conjoined, the air thick with damp cold. Sophia's face was twisted, her voice a hiss. You can't escape me. You chose this. Emily screamed in the dream, waking to find David holding her. It's her, she sobbed. David's face was pale. I saw her too, he admitted, voice low. In the kitchen, just a shadow, but it was her. David's admission broke something in Emily. She couldn't pretend it was just her mind anymore. The next morning, over breakfast, burnt toast and scrambled eggs, she told him everything. The hairpin, the newspaper clipping, the whispers. David listened, his coffee untouched. We need help, he said. He found a local priest, Father Michael, an older man with a gentle voice who agreed to visit. Emily was skeptical but desperate. Father Michael arrived that afternoon, carrying a small bag with a cross and holy water. The apartment felt smaller with him there, the air heavy. He walked through each room, praying softly, sprinkling water. Emily clutched David's hand, her palms sweaty. In the bedroom, the priest paused, frowning. There's a presence here, he said. Anger, tied to you. He asked about Sophia, about the surgery. Emily broke down, confessing her guilt. I agreed to it. I wanted to be free too. Father Michael nodded. She needs peace. You both do. That night they held a small ritual. Father Michael lit candles, their flames flickering in the dark. He prayed, his voice steady, asking for Sophia's spirit to find rest. Emily clutched a photo of them as kids, tears streaming. I'm sorry, she whispered. I love you. The air grew warm, the candles steadying. A soft sigh filled the room, like a breath released. Emily felt lighter, like a weight had lifted. The haunting stopped. No more whispers, no falling frames, no shadows in mirrors. Emily returned to the bookstore, her steps lighter. She and David planted more flowers, ate dinner with real conversation, even laughed at sitcoms again. Months later, Emily found she was pregnant. They named the baby Sophie, a nod to her sister. Life moved on, dull but peaceful, the way Emily now craved. Yet sometimes, late at night, Emily would wake, feeling a faint tug at her hip, where the scar remained. She'd touch it, remembering Sophia's laugh, her mischief. The bond was broken, but never fully gone.